Hello everyone, this is ChakaWhat here, and today I'm going to be presenting to you my top 10 scientists of Fallout. The Fallout universe has done a fairly good job balancing the survivalist and the 50s time period aspects of the game with pure science fiction elements, and some of the best characters in the series happen to be scientists. Up at number 10 I have chosen Liam Binet. Binet is a member of the Institute, but unlike his fellow scientists, he sees the synths as humans. He established a connection with the Railroad using the codename Patriot, and helps usher synths out of the Institute through weak points in the security. Due to the unspoken nature of his relationship with the Railroad, he is surprised when informed that they are who he has been working with. Unfortunately, Binet's pacifist nature and the intelligence of the Institute's security can get the best of him. 9. Vree. A member of the Brotherhood of Steel, Vree served as Master Scribe and Lead Scientist. She was in charge of gathering and preserving knowledge within the Brotherhood, and was responsible for all weapons development and research conducted in Lost Hills. She did extensive research on mutants and their aptitude for survival in the wastes, and the effects of the weapons used during the Great War. Generally liked by her fellow Brotherhood members, all recognized Vree as a tenacious researcher. 8. Dr. Dalla. One of 6 top scientists sent to Big Mountain, Dalla was chief researcher of mineralogy, and like her colleagues survived the Great War to become a think tank and continue her research. She's an expert of humanology and lobotomites, whom she refers to as her teddy bears. Compared to the other scientists, she is much more affectionate when it comes to her work on the lobotomites, and with the help of the courier tries to remember what it was like to breathe and be a human. 7. Calvert. Professor Calvert was a government scientist before the war, locked into a great game between the 1% elite. He lived in Calvert Mansion and was an expert in robotics. He discovered a way to detach his brain from his body to incorporate it with machines, gaining the ability to control them and communicate telepathically with certain residents of Point Lookout. His enemy, another scientist named Desmond Lockhart, rid him of his physical body permanently after the war, and the two continued to battle on the island of Point Lookout. Calvert's ultimate goal was to achieve psychic domination over Maryland and eliminate his old rivals. 6. Jack Cabot. Jack Cabot was born long before the war, and is the son of famed archaeologist Lorenzo Cabot. After his father returned from an expedition from the Middle East with a strange artifact, he became insane. To ensure the safety of his loved ones, Jack held his father in the Parsons State Medical Asylum, where he was the superintendent, and spent the next 400 years studying the alien artifact. He was able to use his father's blood to halt and even reverse the aging process of him and his family, and they remained living in the Cabot house long after the war. 5. Stanislaus Braun. Born before the Great War in Germany, Braun was recruited by Vault-Tec and is the creator of the Garden of Eden creation kit, aka the GECK. His studies were focused primarily on the prolonging and preservation of life, and was contracted by the U.S. Army to develop ways to survive the war. He was the director of Vault-Tec's Societal Preservation Program, and in early days took an active role in Vault assignments and residence. Eventually, Braun escaped into Vault 112 and acted as its overseer. The occupants of the vault were kept in stasis and lived in a virtual reality. Braun took sadistic pleasure in creating new worlds and manipulating them to torture the residents of the vault. He lived on through the persona of a little girl named Betty. 4. James. James was born in the Wastes. At one point, he came into contact with Dr. Madison Lee, his future wife Catherine, and a few other scientists. They formed a strong group, their goal being to provide clean water for the capital wasteland. Eventually, they took on the name Project Purity. Unfortunately, Catherine died, giving birth to the Lone Wanderer. James traveled to Megaton and was eventually granted entry into Vault 101 with his new child in exchange for becoming the Vault's new physician. After the Lone Wanderer turned 19, James escaped from the Vault to return to his mission. He traveled across the capital wasteland in search of the GECK and reunited with Madison Lee and the other Project Purity scientists. Unfortunately, he died at the hands of the Enclave, but the Lone Wanderer was able to ensure that his dream was realized. 3. Brian Virgil. Brian worked in the Institute in the Bioscience Division, researching supermutants. He took control of the program from his predecessor, Dr. Syverson, and worked directly with the Forced Evolutionary Virus, or the FEV. Eventually, Brian came overcome with guilt at the pain he had caused so many test subjects. He infected himself with a strand of the FEV, turning himself into a supermutant, and escaped from the Institute. He traveled until he hit the glowing sea and took up residency in a cave there, trading from time to time with the neighboring children of Adam. A warrant for his death was given to Kellogg, who was then killed by the sole survivor. They traveled to Brian's home, and with his help were able to find a way into the Institute. 2. Dr. Mobius. Like Dr. Dalla, Mobius was one of the scientists working in Big Mountain before the war. He became a think tank, and like the others, forgot part of himself during the process. Mobius reached clarity about the cruelty of the scientists' experiments after the Night Stalkers and Cazadors escaped from the facility. Now set on protecting the surrounding wastes, Mobius erected a radar fence around the Big Empty. After having a falling out with Dr. Klein, Mobius finally made the decision to leave his colleagues. He removed the personalities of the sink, took his research, and left. He also reprogrammed the minds of the other scientists, obscuring their sense of time and making them believe that nothing existed beyond the radar fence. Overcome with guilt with his actions, Mobius then erased his own memory and retreated with his army of robo-scorpions to the Forbidden Zone. Mobius's mind has deteriorated due to addictions to mentats and psycho. However, he has still retained his goodness, despite all he has gone through. And for number 1, I have chosen Dr. Madison Lee. When Madison was a young, idealistic scientist, she met with James and Catherine and helped fully realize the goal of Project Purity. With the support of the Brotherhood of Steel, everything seemed to be going well, until supermutants began attacking the Purifier. The death of Catherine, which caused James to leave, was the final blow, and the scientists disbanded. Feeling betrayed, Madison traveled to Rivet City and became part of Horace Pinkerton's community of scientists. Eventually, the disputes between Madison and Horace became too much and Horace left, leaving Madison in charge. When James left Vault 101, he went to find Madison to continue working on Project Purity, but she refused to help him. Soon after, she met James's child, now an adult, and helped them find their father. Eventually, Madison came around to James and agreed to continue working with Project Purity. After the attack of the Enclave, she returned to the Brotherhood of Steel to get help from Elder Lyons. After the Purifier was finally activated, Madison fled the Capital Wasteland, fearing for her life from the Brotherhood of Steel. She took refuge within the Institute, who took her on and eventually placed her as the director of the Advanced Systems Division. Despite her safety and new life, Madison still felt contempt for the Institute due to their secrecy and refusal to help the citizens of the Commonwealth. I hope you've enjoyed my list and found it helpful, and remember to like and subscribe. Bye!
Do you believe in kissing, honey? You bet I do. Well, I believe in kissing, honey, when the moon is new.
So as many of you know, I am a citizen of the USA, and currently our country is suffering from a crisis at the border. Immigrants seeking asylum in the US are being detained. Families are being separated and kept in detention centers in horrible conditions. All of it is scary and horrible, and a bit hard to come to terms with. So until things start getting better, I'm placing this message at the end of all of my videos to try to use what little influence I have to bring awareness and help. There are a number of things you can do to help. One of the simplest things is to donate to Immigrant Families Together, who are fundraising money to pay the bonds of detained immigrants and also provide necessities to families such as hygiene products, food, and shelter. This organization is also looking for volunteers. You can also take direct action by calling your state's government's officials and try to make your voice heard, and also refuse to let your taxes go to fund these facilities. There are many groups online that are looking for help to make sure these people are treated like human beings and receiving the help they desperately need. Let's prove that there is still hope for humanity and help solve this crisis in the most humane way possible. Remember, showing kindness isn't political. It's just the right thing to do. Thank you.